Go ahead.
I got a summary of the bill, and there's something here that really concerns me. Section 233, page 429, lines 10 to 12. Advanced care consultation may include an order for end-of-life plans from the government. Lines 13 through 25, the government will specify which doctors can write an end-of-life order. That, I read that as euthanasia, and I want to know what we can do to stop them from passing this in an underhanded way through budget reconciliation.
And you've identified a very significant problem. Language is imprecise, and it's imprecise that leaves it open to interpretation, to just the interpretation you've made. We had no hearings on this. This section was put into the bill really without much of any kind of input from any one of us on the committee. It is an important topic, and probably two of the most successful seminars I've done, summits that I've done, have been on advanced directives and advanced planning. So I know that this is an issue that's of great interest to people, and they want to do it correctly. But they want to do it themselves. They don't, or they want their doctor. They don't want someone being designated to do it for them, because someone you've never met before who sits on a committee somewhere may not have your best interests at heart when it comes down to those last hours. So I appreciate what you're saying. I think this is one of the things that has been brought out in the bill that it's going to require being changed. You watched a town hall that Mike Ross and Vic Snyder did up in Arkansas this past week. I don't think they anticipated how volatile this issue was, but I appreciate you bringing it up. Congress needs to hear about this. This either needs to be stricken and approached as a separate problem, or certainly improved from where it is now. But it's open to too much interpretation, and you can't have something that important be that vague.
But what can we do to
none of their business.
passing it in an underhanded way through budget reconciliation?
Well, had we pushed this thing through before the end of last week, that's exactly what would have happened. But what you're doing here today is putting the sunlight on that, and making certain that if that language is in the bill, it's very narrow and very precise, and it would be better still to address that as a separate issue, because it's just too important.
Take it out.
Congressman Burgess, I'm Cindy Wood. I'm a wife and mother. And I was just wondering if you had regard to abortion at present. Somebody said
The previous administration, there was the Mexico City language that prevented that from happening, and that was stricken as an executive order the first of this year. On the domestic side, the language that Henry Hyde had introduced as an amendment every year to several of the appropriations bills has withstood the onslaught, if you will. The language that was in this bill that we just passed out of committee was a little deceptive. It said no tax dollars will be used for funding abortion, but other dollars could be used. Well, once a dollar comes into a company, how do you tell where it came from? And therein is the difficulty, and they were not willing to put the kinds of restrictions around that more of us would have been comfortable about. Joe Pitts, the member from Pennsylvania, who's been a leader on this since Henry Hyde left the Congress, has been front and center, and certainly this is not settled yet, but it's something that has to be watched very, very closely.
And how can we, as God-fearing people, I believe there are a few out here.
I believe you're right.
Pray for you of the country as far as the sanctity of life in the womb and to death, and also for the sanctity of marriage between one man and one woman.
I think today you're doing it. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Catherine Heyman from Flower Mound. I'm a stay-at-home wife and mother of two, and one of my sons has autism. I do have a couple of concerns. Thankfully, my husband still is employed. He's actually an executive for a company, so we have really nice health insurance. That said, wonder with the day that he loses his job, something happens, things like that. We as a family would be really hard-pressed to find insurance. Once you have a child with a disability or have someone with heart disease in your family like my husband does, you really are uninsurable as a family unit. what I would like to see is, no matter what we put together in a health plan, for there to be, right now it's coupled with employment. So my health insurance rates are based on the number of people in my husband's company. And if we were to be on our own, it would be based on the risk pool of our family. What I want is each state to be considered a risk pool. So if you lose your business, if you lose your job, if you just want to go hang your shingle and be your own attorney, that you can then shop around insurance companies all day long, and your premiums are set based on the risk pool of the profile of the entire state of Texas, not just your family. And I think that would make it very, very affordable.
That's an excellent idea. It has been one that has been talked about in several different forms. I would just simply ask the question, why restrict it to a state? Or states like smaller, why not allow regionalization, or make it something that an individual can make a decision that they're going to buy this product that's available nationwide. After all, Medicare and Medicaid are available nationwide without respect to state jurisdictions. Being able to pool with even a much larger, or to join with even a much larger pool, really might be a way to bring prices down. Now, one of the things you are going to see, we get just one other thought. The issue, several people asked me before we got started, of what about this co-op thing? And co-ops may be something that deserve to be looked at. They may be very similar to what you've just described. And they wouldn't cost the government any money. Maybe they could look like association health plans that have been talked about for a number of years, but we've never been able to quite get that done. But the ability for people outside of an employer-sponsored insurance regimen to band together and get a better deal is one that I fully support.
And the problem I have, the reason I mentioned just this Texas state pool, is it seems to me that insurance is regulated most heavily by state. And my son being on the autism spectrum, I'm really involved with the Autism Speaks. And we've been successful in getting autism-related services covered only in certain states. So that it might look portable, that I can buy insurance from Louisiana for a lot less money, but you guess what? They don't cover anything that I might need. And if they don't pay my claim, I can't call my state agency and lodge a complaint. They're based in Louisiana. You call Louisiana, they're going to say, oh, well, you're a Texas resident. So you get a whole lot of finger pointing either way when you deal with multi-state environments. But that's why I mentioned just a state pool, to keep the control at the state level.
And you've identified one of the shortcomings of doing that. As long as you have the correct focus on what are essential benefits and what are guaranteed in the coverage, and maintain the control on that, then that's not an insurmountable obstacle. I just know from my talks with realtors in the area who tried to do it entirely just state-based pool, it wasn't as successful as they thought it would be. They thought it would be more successful if they could go outside, go across the Red River to bring in other offices. The City of Lubbock has the Chamber of Commerce in Lubbock has a very viable co-op that is working for their chamber members out there. They came to see me early in the year and said, we could even do much better if we were able to partner with Albuquerque, and there are those jurisdictional issues that hold them back. But correct, this is something that needs to be thought about and carefully constructed, and didn't need to be rushed through at the last minute. Bear in mind that all of the benefits from this healthcare bill start to occur in the years 2011 and 2012. Taxes go up next year. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Congressman, if you believe in free market principles, then why wouldn't you support a health care reform bill with a public option that would create competition, lowering costs to your constituents, and making health care available for citizens who currently don't have it?
The difficulties
The current system is broken.
And the reason it's broken is because some people would submit because of the government interference, because what government has done because of Medicare and Medicaid, distorting the marketplace and making it sending inaccurate signals to the marketplace. But the bottom line is that we know that when the government creates something like that, they set the rules, they set the rates, it becomes, there's not a bone in my body that wants to defend the behavior of insurance companies the past several years. But at the same time, there's not a bone in my body that wants to defend what Medicare and Medicaid has done the last several years.